thank you everyone so much for joining today's session. Niesh and I are excited to be chatting with you about what out-of-province real estate investing looks like. So in today's session, we're going to be covering quite a few things. First off, we're going to introduce ourselves, talk a little bit about who we are, and take a look at our out-of-province portfolios. We'll look at why you should be considering to invest out of province, whether you're in Ontario, BC, even if you're in Alberta, there are different opportunities available as well that you should be taking a look at. And we're going to look at how that investment process looks like as well, because often we get asked, how can I actually do this? I'm not physically located there. So we'll go into more details about that. And we'll talk about how you should be maximizing your wealth as well as minimizing your stress. Yes, it is possible to do both of those things. We'll talk about our personal experiences and why, I'll spoil it, why Calgary is where we're investing our money and why you should be considering that as well. And then we'll open the floor to any questions that you have. Feel free to answer them in the Q&A box, and we'll be sure to address all the questions that we get. And then at the end, we'll talk to you about our next exciting webinar as well.
And we are recording this, everyone, so you will get a copy. Anyone that signed up will get a copy. So if you don't keep up with everything that we're going to be speaking about, you'll get that in a full live rerun or recorded rerun.
Absolutely. So who are we? We are part of RE/MAX Wealth Builders Real Estate, and we have helped over 1,000 investors from across Canada to invest in Calgary in just the last 3 years, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. We've now sold well over 300 mil, probably about $500 million, I think we're approaching, in pre-construction units just in the Calgary market. So we are definitely experts there. We live and breathe Calgary every single day. But perhaps the most important part is our team has personally invested in 20 units in Calgary and continuing to grow. I just bought my last unit last month. And Niesh has been very active as well. So we are continuing to buy in Calgary. And I'd like to introduce ourselves in a little bit more detail. Alex Wilson is our team lead. He is the broker owner of RE/MAX Wealth Builders. He's been selling real estate for over 15 years. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to attend this call, but he has been recognized as the #1 RE/MAX agent in Canada last year for the number of transactions. The #1 agent, RE/MAX agent in Canada, which is crazy, mind-boggling. And he has a portfolio of multi-properties. I think he's up to 17 or 18 now, worth well over $17 million as well. This is a quick glimpse into his portfolio. He's not here to talk about it, so I'll just put it up on the screen now so that everyone can see it. And we're all about transparency here at Wealth Builders. And this is what his portfolio looks like. Many properties throughout the GTA, even in Hamilton, but also extending into Calgary as well, with his purchases there at East Hills, at Frontier, at Era. He's got multiple ones there. And then myself, happy to be hosting the session today with Niesh. I'm a real estate broker. I'm licensed in Ontario and Alberta, and I've been investing in real estate for over a decade now. But I didn't start there. My previous career was actually running Lotto Max and Lotto 649 on behalf of the provincial lotteries. But this year alone, I've helped over 170 people from across Canada to buy pre-construction properties in Calgary. So I'm no longer helping people gamble on their futures. I'm helping them build wealth through real estate investing. And recently I was inducted into the RE/MAX Hall of Fame. But what I'm most proud of is I turned one deposit of about $38,000 into a multi-million-dollar portfolio, now of 7 properties. We haven't updated this slide yet. I've been featured in CBC News about people investing in Calgary. And I've also been on HGTV. I was on a home renovation show a couple of years as well. So have access or a lot of experience with news all across Canada. And this is what my portfolio looks like. It's actually missing my last investment, but I've got several properties throughout the GTA. I've got 5 properties there, and I now have 2 properties in Calgary as well. The current market value on those is a little over $4.5 million. But what gets me excited is what that portfolio looks like after 30 years, because I'm buying and I am holding. That is our investment strategy here at RE/MAX Wealth Builders. And in 30 years, with just a conservative 3% return, that portfolio will be worth well over $10 million, not factoring in cash flow or any principal repayment on that as well. If you look at what the actual historic return has been, it's more like 6.5%. So, this can definitely be my retirement fund moving forward. And that's what I'm planning on doing here, is building generational wealth that I can then pass down to my kid. And now I'd like you to meet Niesh.
Oh, new slides. Nice. New pictures as well. So thank you everyone for joining us on this Thursday afternoon and allowing Kyle and I to have our little soapbox moment to talk a little bit about ourselves before we get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation today. My name is Niesh, and I've been a licensed realtor since November of 2020. I've had success in this space and have been recognized as 1% of realtors for all sales last year, the year before, and hopefully in 2023 as well. Those numbers will be out sooner than later. I've been investing in real estate since 2006, and my first two properties were in the Greater Toronto area. But since then, I have invested out of province, and now I am the landlord and owner of 6 properties and 3 additional ones that I have a financial stake in. 2 of those properties, as mentioned, are in the Greater Toronto area, and the other 7 are out of province in Alberta. I've sold over 165 Calgary investment properties since I started, and I've also had a pretty successful resale business as well. Prior to my time as a realtor, I spent 22 years in a corporate setting, just like many of you on the call right now. Unfortunately, as COVID fell on all of us, that industry that I was in took some tremendous losses, and unfortunately, I was no longer able to sustain that position. We actually had to insolve as a company. It left many of us without jobs. Thankfully, I was young enough to kind of pivot over to another career. However, many of my colleagues and co-workers weren't in that position. So they truly saw many of their years of invested time and energy, money that they put aside for their retirement, contributions that should have been matched by the company that we work for, all that vanished. So I want to make this point because one of the main reasons I really got into investing in real estate was to ensure that the financial future for myself, my son, and future generations was secure. So we're all about generating generational wealth for ourselves and for our customers and our clients. And since I had that mental switch of, hey, let me take my retirement into my own hands, I was able to take the existing investment portfolio that I had, and in about a year and a half, I was able to quadruple that. And currently, I have a portfolio that's worth just over $5 million, today's dollars. And as Kyle mentioned, we are extremely transparent with our portfolio and what we have. Here is my portfolio, the first 2 in Toronto, and the next 7 have been in Calgary. 2 of those properties are, well, one of those properties right now has a tenant. The other one is closing in a couple of weeks, so I'm excited about that. And then the other 5 are scheduled to close over the next year to 2028. And the most recent one that I purchased was over the summertime or in the late spring, which was another property out in Calgary. And over the next 30 years, and we use that 30-year amortization period because that's typically when your mortgages are paid off by the schedule that you put in place, that portfolio will be worth just under $12.5 million, purely based on a 3% year-over-year appreciation. And Kyle mentioned historically those numbers have been, much higher, almost double. So this really gives you some insight into really we're putting our money where our mouth is and we're walking the talk. So excited to continue talking about that with you today. Mentioned,
Thanks, Niesh.
yeah, the retirement piece. I think this is a good segue into the pension fund component, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, like you said, his company ended up dissolving. You have other big companies like Nortel, Sears, these big companies that had pensions no longer even exist today. So you can't depend on your employer or even the government. They keep clawing back benefits. You need to be able to create create your own pension fund. And real estate allows you to do that while also keeping your home in retirement as well, because you can leverage that existing equity today in order to build your future. And we'll put it in perspective. Each $350,000 purchase price condo that you buy can add over $24,000 in annual income in your retirement years. So if you build a small portfolio of a few different properties, which the average person is capable of doing, you can build yourself a significant income stream and significant nest egg that you can use for your retirement years. So huge power here, but it takes time. You need to be investing today and need to be in the market for a long period of time.
So why invest out of province? Kyle, you mentioned you need to be investing today. Well, unfortunately, in many markets, investing in real estate in the markets that you're in, like the market that I'm in, the market that Kyle's in, and maybe many of you on the webinar are in similar situations where it's just not feasible to buy property because you have significantly higher price points. Your down payments are also proportionate to the prices, and there could be a ton of additional costs that you aren't ready to pay. So looking at a province and looking at other places like Calgary, which we'll get into in detail, may provide many people that don't have the opportunity to invest in their home province to still break into the home ownership category and start building some wealth. Now, when you do look at places outside of your province, because I think many of us have a good understanding of what the real estate market might look like where you live, you want to look for an area where you're going to see a return on your investment. Now, you can certainly buy in areas where it's extremely cheaper than where you are, but if the property values aren't growing and you're not seeing the same type of rental income to sustain that investment, then you're really just banking your money somewhere and not really allowing it to grow for you. It's almost like having it in the bank. You might be losing money every day because of inflation. Another reason why you want to start looking at out-of-province investments for real estate is you want to try your best to diversify where you put your money. There could be situations where you have your fund in one specific market, but maybe that market was so dependent on one type of industry that now with that industry not being around anymore, the values of those properties have gone down, and it might take decades and decades for that to kind of get back to where it was. Or simply, you may not be able to invest because of the prices like we talked about. There are also some other taxable benefits that you might consider when you are looking at out of province. Many places charge the HST on buying new homes, and then the income that you earn on those properties are also taxed at a very high rate. If you have properties out of province, and again, this is where you want to make sure you look for good opportunities, you may not have to pay the same types of taxes when you purchase a property. There might not be any HST. You might only have to pay GST. You might forego the entire land transfer tax process that you have to pay in places like Vancouver, British Columbia, Ontario, Toronto, all these other markets where prices are extremely, extremely high right now. And then also there's the piece of post-purchase investment. It's when you're dealing with the tenant, you might be dealing with a jurisdiction or a province where the landlord and tenant rules are not favorable to landlords. Now, no one really wants to be in a position where they've spent a ton of money on a property and all of a sudden they have a deviant tenant who isn't paying you rent, but because there's really no good system in place to support the landlord, you're waiting for an entire year before you can take any action against this tenant. You still have to pay your mortgage. If they're not paying you the rent, now you're out of pocket thousands and thousands of dollars every month. So looking at a province, you may be able to find a situation that is much more favorable to you as an investor than your home province.
Well said, Niesh. So how do you invest out of province? Well, the first part is doing your research. Like the famous Wayne Gretzky quote, you don't want to look where the puck is, you want to look where the puck is going. So where are the areas of opportunity that you see for significant appreciation? Because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone in 3 years from now. But you can definitely see trends in the market today that you want to follow. Follow the people, follow the money. Two great rules. Now, the great part about working with us is we do this research for you. And we're putting our own money behind it as well, because that's how much we believe about the markets that we're investing in. Next is budgeting. You want to look at your potential return, but a big part of it is how much of a mortgage you can afford. This is one of the most important things that I advise clients to do. Get a mortgage pre-approval. Find out how big of a mortgage you can get, because that's going to help dictate how much of a purchase price you can buy and the size of investment property. This is one of the biggest downsides of investing in, say, Ontario or in BC right now. Even if you can afford the down payment for a property that might be $700,000 or $800,000, getting a mortgage for that property is a whole different ballgame than, say, buying in Calgary when you're trying to get a mortgage on a $300,000 or $400,000 property. Those are completely different equations. So having that budget, having those numbers is really important. And we work with mortgage brokers that can absolutely help you do this calculation and determine, reasonably what you should be purchasing. There's no cost to it, and it's only to your benefit. Knowledge is power. And this is one of those big areas where you can learn a lot. So get in contact if you haven't done that already. Professional help. We have wide networks that we access to. We are very experienced real estate agents. We understand the market. We live and breathe this. Both Niesh and I have done hundreds of transactions in Calgary, as well as the GTA across Canada. So work with an expert, because you get to leverage our knowledge, leverage our experience, and our personal, case studies. We've gone through it all. I'm literally closing a property today. I can tell you how that process works, what that looks like. So, leverage us. We also have networks. If you need a mortgage broker, insurance agent, if you want to Airbnb the property, you reach out to us. We will make real estate investing easy and stress-free for you. And that leads into property management. This is the biggest concern that I see a lot of people have is, I'm in Ontario, I'm in BC, I can't go to the property. That's right, exactly. You're going to hire a property management company for two things. Number one is to rent out the property for you. In Alberta, units are rented by property management companies, not by real estate agents like in a lot of other markets. Go on realtor.ca today, and you'll see maybe 10 listings across all of Calgary for rent. Whereas if you go on a big property rental site like rentfaster.ca, you'll see 4,000, 5,000 listings. So it's just done a little bit differently out there. And a property management company is going to be the one to help you do it. And hire the experts, allow them to do it, because they're going to do the due diligence for you. They're going to research the people, pull credit reports, do everything. They're knowledgeable about this. They do this every day. So let them handle it for you, because the biggest mistake you can do is to put a poor tenant in your property, because they can do damage. They can stop paying rent. You want to get a AAA tenant. And most of the work is done upfront, screening and vetting those tenants. The other side is they can manage the unit for you on a day-to-day basis. So if there's an issue with the tenant, if there's a flood, if they lock themselves out, if anything needs to be repaired, you're not getting those phone calls. A property management company is the one. They're the boots on your ground, a local Calgary property management company. And we have special arrangements with companies in Calgary, because we do so much volume. We've been able to negotiate on behalf of our clients to get rates discounted. And the property management companies are incentivized to keep our clients really happy as well, because we give them so much volume too. So that's going to be you hitting that easy button and making your life as simple and easy as possible. And the best part is the rents are so high that you should be able to cover the property management expenses as well as the carrying costs of the property as well. So that's how you're going to make it stress-free and very easy to manage. Legal considerations. You always want to consult a lawyer in Alberta, because provincial laws are slightly different across Canada. I get asked that a lot. I've got a lawyer in Toronto. Can they review the documents? Like, yeah, they can see the big stuff, but things are done slightly different in different provinces. So get that expert in Alberta. They also need to be able to access the land title registration office in Alberta as well, which is another reason why you need to close using a property in Alberta. And we have fantastic partners that live and breathe pre-construction. They know it inside and out. They know the big players like Truman, work with them every single day, and have amazing relationships with them as well. So those are great ways, easy ways to invest out of province, but also to protect your investment as well.
There's one quick point, Kyle, that I want to touch on when we looked at the budgeting component of how to invest. One of the aspects of knowing what you can afford when you work with a mortgage agent is also to take a look at what the rental income to purchase price ratio is going to be. So in many markets, in more expensive markets, your carrying cost in some cases is almost double of what you can get from rent. And when you have situations like that, your ability to buy property as investment properties in these markets are going to be very, very challenging, especially given the current interest rates that we're dealing with now, and most likely we'll be dealing with until the end of next year. In places like Calgary, what happens is the cost is significantly lower, but the rental income is really, really strong. So you're looking at a situation where you can actually cash flow. And why this is important beyond just the financial component is that when you need a mortgage, your lender will look at some of these risk factors, right? Yes, they take your income into account, but they're also going to take a look at the rental income. And the higher the rental income is relative to the carrying cost, the better your chances are of actually being funded at a proper rate, not having to go to, a private lender or so to finance your purchase.
Yep, fantastic points, Niesh. And something else that a lot of people don't understand is the average person can qualify for multiple mortgages on different properties. Getting up to 5 properties is relatively easy using standard conventional mortgages. It depends highly on your income, so you need to have enough income to support it. But if you do, then you can easily build and grow a portfolio. After 5, we have lending partners that'll do 40 different properties as well. So you can continue to grow. And there are different strategies that you can use as well to grow your portfolio more easily that we'll absolutely be willing and able to share with you if you wanted to book a call with us. Some of our secret sauce, so to speak.
So how do you maximize your wealth and minimize your stress? It's a good question. Let's see. So as Kyle indicated, it's important that you choose the right agents with the right experience. And we cannot stress this enough. There are so many agents out there that sell properties outside of their home province, yet they have not invested their hard-earned money, and they're asking you to do that. We have done that in advance. And the reason why this is important is if I'm investing my money, I'm going to do all the research. I'm going to uncover every stone. I'm going to look at all the pitfalls. I'm going to look at all the potential risks versus the rewards to see if it's the right move. Everyone on our team has done that. And that's why we can speak so comfortably and confidently about the different projects that we present, we advertise, and we ask our investors, new and existing investors, to consider, because we know that these are good investment tools to help you reach your financial goals. The second
Absolutely. And Niesh, I get called by so many different people who didn't buy a property through me. They're like, I can't get a hold of that agent again, or they don't know what they're talking about. That they're just sending me the brochure. And that's the limit of the services that they're giving. We go so far beyond that. We always pick up our phones. We're always accessible. Might not be able to pick up that moment, but I will always get back to my clients and give them a more in-depth analysis on their situation or how to fix their problems. We're always just a phone call away.
And you're giving the same insight to people that aren't your clients as well, because they can't get in touch with their agents.
Well, exactly. And we're all about education as well. So we want to inform people, and hopefully, you'll trust us enough to give us your business on that next one, because you learn that experience does matter, and finding the right partners with your real estate investments is critical to reduce that stress and to maximize your investment.
Correct. The next point, working with the right mortgage broker, not only if you're looking to scale your investment portfolio to multiple properties, but you also want to work with a mortgage broker and a network of professionals that understand the nuances and the critical path and steps to get a mortgage funded for an out-of-province investment. As an example, in Alberta, you can't do the majority of your lending and your closing process through e-signatures. So you have to be on a Zoom call with a lawyer. They have to see you signing. Your mortgage agent has to be involved. You have to FedEx your paper overnight. So all those elements are critical for you being able to close on time. And when you're working with the right team of professionals, including a mortgage broker, they're going to be able to explain all those steps. They'll be able to set the timelines in advance. So this way, you're not scrambling last minute trying to close. You could do everything in a scheduled, methodical way to minimize your stress and make sure that the day that you're supposed to close, you've done everything on your end to make that happen, thus leaving everything in the hands of the professionals out in Alberta to make it happen for you.
And I've seen mortgage brokers in experience completely blow up deals for absolutely no reason. Because I've had other people come to me and say, hey, this guy's not able to do it. And they're like, okay, talk to one of my partners. They can get it done, no problem. But I've had mortgage brokers cost different people tens of thousands of dollars because they're dropping the ball. They don't know how to do it. So again, here, experience is key, and using the right partners is critical.
The last 2 weeks, Kyle and I, we joked about this over a message a couple of days ago. But the last 2 weeks, I felt like I haven't been able to get anything done because I had so many clients close, and many of them, unfortunately, decided to use their own mortgage agents or their own lawyers for the closing. And let me tell you, things did not go well for them. And even though it's not our fault, they're still my clients. So we want to help them out, and we want to make sure that we don't, we aren't putting them in a position that they're going to have to pay a ton of money, even though we didn't put them in a position. We want to do our best to get them out of that position, back on track, working with the right people so they can actually close on the investment and have the experience that they expected to when we had that conversation on the front end when they purchased the property. And then, looking at pre-construction versus resale, the pre-construction market has been a great tool for many of us to generate our wealth and build our financial futures, simply because when you look at your initial capital, you don't need to put down 20% right away. You have an extended period of time to come up with that 20% total, because you do need a total of 20% down before you close. But you have the deposit component, which is what you pay the developer, and that can be anywhere from 5 to 10%. And that range can be anywhere from 4 months to 18 months to 2 years. So we have many different projects that help you finance your pre-construction investment. And the fact that you're buying a property that's brand new will also mean you have almost no headaches come closing and when you take possession of the property, like you will with the resale property. Plus, I wouldn't be too confident buying a resale property if I wasn't on site doing the inspections, doing all those things that I would if I was buying a resale property in the city that I live in. With pre-construction, you get to bypass some of those major headaches and allow, the benefits of buying a new property and everything that entails to help you with your financial goals when it comes to investing in real estate. And the fourth and final thing, we talked about a property manager. They are the ones that will be your proxy. They will act as the owner. They are the landlord. They will be dealing with the tenants. Now, it may not seem like a big deal to play landlord, but if your goal is to scale your real estate portfolio and have multiple properties, 1 or 2 problematic tenants can eat up an entire week of your time. And if you're really out of province, you don't want to be flying out there. Because the rental market is so strong, and again, not to harp on this, but because you're buying properties at a significantly lower cost than you would in more expensive markets, it's well worth spending that extra amount of money to pay an expert to manage not only the property, but also the tenant on your behalf. and they are in the know with all the newest legislation. You may not know exactly what's happening out there, and you might take a look at your own province's set of rules and apply them, and may get into a little bit of trouble, or you might not be utilizing things that you can simply because you don't know that they exist. A property manager will make your life so much easier, allowing you to then, of course, scale your portfolio and purchase as many properties as you can financially afford.
Well said, Niesh. So let's take a look. So case studies, we've been talking out of province, and I'm sure as many of you can tell, we are definitely recommending Calgary as the area of opportunity for out of province investors, as well as those people in Alberta and even Calgary itself. This is where we see the greatest potential for the next 2 to 5 years using the information that we have on hand. And that's for a couple reasons. Calgary continued to be voted one of the most livable cities in North America, located in the foothills of the Canadian Rockies. So you have amazing ski activities, outdoor activities, continues to be rated as one of the most livable cities in the world because lots of green space, very affordable real estate, and very low cost of living overall. And it's really starting to attract people there. How successful was that Alberta is Calling campaign? I don't know. But what I do know is they're experiencing historic population booms in Alberta right now, mainly from two sources. International immigration, making up about 70% of the people moving there, as well as interprovincial migration, people moving from other provinces, mainly Ontario, to Alberta. And that's where the population of Alberta is set to explode, increasing 48% by 2043. It's going to be larger than BC. It's going to take that crown from them versus Ontario that's growing, but only be about 24%, about half as much the growth. And looking at Calgary more specifically, it's looking to grow about 62% over the next 20 years. That is a massive number of people coming to the city. But as you can see with the graph, those gray bars are the number of houses being completed, whereas the pink is the number of households moving there. There's a massive shortage of housing, guys. We already know this nationally, but in Calgary especially, this is so acute right now. And that's why you're seeing huge opportunity and you're seeing price growth in that market. But not only that, Alberta is very strong on the economic side of things. And especially Calgary, it's the fourth largest city in Canada. It's larger than many different provinces like Saskatchewan, like Manitoba. People seem to forget that, but Calgary is a big boy when it comes to the national scene. And the economy is strong in Alberta. In 2023, expecting Alberta to lead economic growth. Same with 2024. Jobs mean people. People mean demand on housing. Demand on housing means increase in prices. And Alberta is very strong economically. It's going to be running a surplus this year. They're projecting that at about $5.5 billion. Compare that to like Ontario. What are we running now? Like a $20 billion deficit? Or sorry, I think that's federal, but multi-billion-dollar deficit. And that allows Alberta to do some really amazing things. They've got the lowest corporate tax rate, attracting huge numbers of businesses there. There's no provincial sales tax there, only the 5% GST. There's no land transfer tax whatsoever for any real estate. And there's no caps on development charges because there are no development charges. In Toronto nowadays, about a third of the entire cost goes towards taxes and fees to multiple different levels of government. In Alberta, that's pretty much zero. Plus, they're very pro-business, very anti-tax, as you've seen. There's no rent control on any properties there. Limited red tape as well. So very attractive environment. And it is diversifying away from oil and gas into technology. This is what gets me excited. From a technology workforce standpoint, Calgary is really shooting above its weight. And you're seeing a huge boom there, mainly because of the educated workforce in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. You're getting a huge number of startups there, well over 400 now. and being driven by that workforce, but also very low cost office space. Downtown Calgary, you're looking about 1750 a square foot. You go to other major markets, it's double that in Toronto, triple that in Vancouver. So if you're a business, why wouldn't you consider Calgary? Incredibly low taxes, very low cost environment for your office setup as well. And that's why they have, one of the highest numbers of businesses moving there that have their headquarters in Calgary too. And these tech companies are really starting to grow up. You're getting billion-dollar valuation companies, unicorns, as they're called out there. And there's been multiple ones there from the tech scene sprouting, like Neo Financial, Benevity, ShareWorks. But you also have the big names in Canada and internationally as well. Amazon, they've tripled down in Calgary. They have their regular distribution hub. They just set up a bulky distribution hub there. They have their Amazon Web Services there, only the second one in Canada. The only other one is in Montreal. So they are going big in Calgary overall. And when you have a company like that choosing Calgary as its site, that speaks volumes. They have teams of analysts, lawyers, everyone looking into this, and they are specifically choosing Calgary. I listen to that when big companies do that. You've got TELUS. They just finished their 60-story headquarters, the TELUS Sky in downtown Calgary. They're investing billions into Alberta. WestJet made Calgary their international hub for all of their flights. There's only 4 international airports in Canada, and now Calgary is one of them. That's going to result in about 1,000 direct jobs, billions of dollars being invested into the city of Calgary and the airport there. Smaller companies like de Havilland, moving their operations from Downs View in Toronto to just outside of Calgary on the eastern edge. Going to be a massive development there. But these are names that you haven't really heard of that fly under the radar. It's funny because they manufacture water bombers, but there are more and more businesses like this setting up. But also back to the tech side of things, Infosys, Emphasis, these are big Indian companies that have set up operations there. But what gets me excited is they tend to continue to add operations, expand it there because it's working out so well for them. But back to the other big guys, TD, RBC, IBM, they all have operations in Calgary, but they're focused more on innovation side of things in teaching, which gets me excited. And you're starting to see that huge performance in Calgary. It's really been over about the past 2 years where you've seen growth like crazy in the market. These are the stats from November. And the benchmark price overall in Calgary is up about 10%. Now, the more expensive detached and semi-detached houses, that's actually dragging the market down. Because when you look at townhomes and condos, the more affordable options, anything under $700,000, but especially $500,000 or less, is going gangbusters right now because of affordability. Condos are up about 18% year over year. Townhomes, 21%. In the worst real estate market in Canada we've seen in about 30 years. Compare that to, Toronto, that's down. Many markets in Ontario, like Kitchener, probably down 20% from the peak. There are others down 30%. This is the complete opposite direction. And it's driven because of those jobs, because of that affordability in the market there. And I don't think either of those things are going to go away anytime soon. So the Calgary market overall is definitely a buyer's market. The average number of days of properties on for sale is 29, less than a month. In Toronto nowadays, it's probably pushing towards 60, 65 days. Months of supply overall is 1.67. For townhomes, it's just about a month of supply. That is an insane buyer's market. A more balanced market is more like 4 to 6 months of supply. So the Calgary market continues to perform very, very strongly. And they have had 10 months of consecutive price gains.
Sorry, Kyle, it's a seller's market, not a buyer's market.
Or sorry, seller's market. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So that's where you definitely want to be considering Calgary. There's no sign of that slowing, but prices are still very affordable compared to those other major markets. So let's take a look at how you can take advantage of this trend. Niesh, do you want to cover the opportunities? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Yeah, before I get into the opportunities, that was fantastic content, and I love hearing you speak about that. I hear your passion, and every time it reminds me why I've invested in Calgary. This goes back to one of the points that we introduced at the beginning of the presentation. It's the potential for higher returns on your investment. When property values are going up, the rental market is going up, and all of this is being caused by the growth in the population as a result of the job growth and how well Calgary is diversified. Like, these are the type of variables that you want to see in a calculation to give you confidence to invest in real estate, especially if you're investing in real estate out of province. Now, as we talked about, we don't have a crystal ball, but what we do look at are the fundamental elements of what makes an investment area, property, province, city, all those things positive. And we have those variables in place. So definitely gets me jazzed up every time we go through that component. So thanks for getting me back on board here, Kyle. So we have a ton of different opportunities. Our opportunities range out in Calgary from your condos, your 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, even a studio condo, all the way up to single family homes. We have condos that are outside of the downtown core, so your suburban condos that are in that mid $300,000 range. They come with what's called a 2-year rental guarantee. We typically have these types of incentives for all of our projects. And a 2-year rental guarantee is where the developer will lease the unit back from you for 2 years and pay you consistently for 24 straight months. They will hire a tenant, they'll hire a tenant, or they'll secure a tenant, and they'll manage that tenant for you for those 2 years as well. And that's definitely something to consider. But if you decide not to go that route, then you can work with a property management company to find and secure your own tenant. We have condos starting in the high $400,000 range, which is smack dab in the downtown core. So if you're looking at properties appreciating quickly, of course, the downtown core is probably where you want to be in the condo category. Rental numbers there are fantastic, and there's so much work being done to the infrastructure to boost the property values in the downtown core. So certainly something you want to keep in mind. We have townhomes. We have condo townhomes that are 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom that come with 2-car parking garages. We have some that are starting in the low 400s going all the way to the mid 500s. Sorry, high 400s going all the way to the mid 500s. We have a few that are closing as early as this coming year and some that are closing in 2026. And we also have your traditional single family homes. Many of those come with the option to add a rental suite in the basement, a legal rental suite where you can double up your income. And our down payment deposits start anywhere from, well, we have many that are still in that 5% category, but we have 10% options and 15% options. And of course, the more that you put down, the better the incentive package is. Kyle, did you want to talk about mine, or did you want me to?
Why don't you talk about it?
Perfect. Yeah. So mine condos, they are located in the northeast quadrant of Calgary. This is the Cornerstone neighborhood. Now, this is the fastest growing quadrant and also the fastest growing community in Calgary. 4 out of my 7 properties out in Calgary are in the Northeast, and I've seen some really, really strong gains over the last year to 2 years since I initially made my purchase. We have condos at mine that start as low as $335 for the 1-bedroom units, and they all include parking. 2-bedroom, 2-bath are in the $375 range. And then we also have 3-bedroom condo options, like 3-bedroom condos. You can barely find any of those in the more expensive markets. Or if you do, they're like 600 square feet. But these are, well sized for that low $400,000 range. They all come with a 2-year rental guarantee. And deposit structures are as low as 10%. So you can invest with as little as $33,000 for investments at the mine condos.
And the location is really incredible because just to the west, you're going to have a brand new school. Immediately across the street to the south, brand new recreation center. To the east, you have green space and wetlands. So it's like, who wouldn't want to live in a building like this?
And then we have another entry-level investment. It's called Orson Condos. Now, Orson Condos is located in Wolf Willow, which is in the southeast quadrant of Calgary in the beautiful Bull River Valley. It's a master planned Truman community. And this particular project, there's 3 buildings. We just launched the 3rd building a couple of weeks back, and it's a total of 287 units with all 3 buildings combined. The 1 bedrooms start in as low as 330K, and they're about 500 square feet, so they're not 300 square feet like we see in some of the newer builds coming out in our more expensive markets. And they all include parking. The 2 bedrooms start as low as 365, and of course the 3 bedrooms are in that 430 range. Similar to mine condos, they come with a 2-year rental guarantee as well, and the deposit structure is very similar. We may be able to pull off some 5%. So let us know if you're interested. We'll try to make that happen for you. Can't guarantee anything, but we'll certainly do our best to see if we can resurrect a promotion that we had running not too long ago. And folks, getting back to the rental guarantee, please keep in mind, this is only an incentive. You're not obligated to go with the rental guarantee from the developer. By the time 2027 comes around, the rental numbers are going to be so much stronger that the rental guarantee may not even be anything you want to consider. You can opt out, work with a well-established property management company, and we can help make that happen for you. You can get market rent, and this way you're able to really see a good return on every dollar that you're spending with the investments out there.
Yep, really maximizing that return. So then questions. So we'll stop there. If you have any questions, drop them into the Q&A box. We have one question now. What happens to buyers' funds if the builder folds? Is it insured? So in Alberta, there's 2 ways to protect deposits. The funds are either held by a lawyer in trust on your behalf, or the builder needs to buy deposit insurance against your funds. So either way, your funds are protected. The most common, by far, about 95% of cases, a lawyer is going to hold on to those funds on your behalf. With Truman, that's the most active developer that we deal with. It's held by Dentons Canada, huge international law firm. All the deposits go to them, and they hold on to the funds until the project is completed. The builder never touches them until final closing, at which point then the funds are delivered over to them. So that's how you're protected. Truman as well has never canceled a building in their 35-year history. So going with a company like that has an amazing reputation, is a household name in Calgary, is one of the most important ways to protect your investment.
Question number 2, is there a cost to get out of the rental guarantee? The answer is yes and no. So let's begin with the yes situation. Now, most builders do not like you making any changes 90 days leading into your closing. So if at any time you want to opt out of the rental guarantee and you're within that 90 days, there typically is a fee. It generally is about 3 months of what the rental guarantee numbers look like. So if your rental guarantee is $2,000, it takes about $6,000 to opt out. However, there are some projects where we know that this is an element. So this is what we're going to be kind of guiding you through and letting you know that, hey, if you want to opt out, it's much better to do it sooner than later. If your project is much further out, typically they give you a longer grace period to opt out, but you can always opt out within the first 10 days, within your 10-day cooling off period. There's no charge, and we'll be able to guide you through step by step which projects are inclusive of fees and which ones don't have fees. So we will make sure that if that is something that you want to consider, we will provide you with the right feedback and strategies to ensure that you don't have to pay that cost.
Are there any other questions?
No, I think we're coming up to our 1 hour mark. So we'll give a few more seconds if anyone is typing some questions down. But while we're waiting, we want to thank you for taking your time on this Thursday afternoon to spend time with us. We truly appreciate you doing that. We also want to let you know that next week, same time, 12 o'clock on Thursday, we'll have our next webinar. It'll be more focused on the Toronto market, and we'll be looking at, what's happened in the market in Toronto. Are we in a buyer's market, and what does that mean for you? So it's going to be some really good content. Alex should be here for that, and he has a wealth of knowledge in the Toronto market. So definitely make some time to be there. And even if you can't, Oh, it's at 1 o'clock. Okay, times have changed. 1 p.m. So no. Are we usually at 1 o'clock? No, we're at 12 o'clock. So yes, we're an hour later next week. Even
We'll
if you
confirm
can't
that for
make
everyone.
it, yeah, we'll make sure. I didn't know it was at 1 o'clock, but okay, we'll go with what's on the board. But even if you can't make the 12 o'clock or potentially the 1 o'clock start time, if you register, you will get a video recording of the webinar, and definitely try to be there, because I learn, even though I know what the content is, every time I partake in one of these, I learn a ton. And here is our contact details. So if you have any questions about anything we talked about in terms of, considerations for investing out of province, or you have a property out there right now, or you're coming up on a closing, whatever it is, we are an open book. We're here to help support you through your investment strategy and your journey, and we would love to hear from you. You could pick any three of us. We typically collaborate on connecting with our clients, so we're certainly here to help you and would love to hear from you.
Awesome. All right. With that, thank you again, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure, and bye for now.
Adios.